Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Hello and welcome to All for United's Player of the Season Awards ceremony. Bit of a weird one considering the players didn't actually have their own Player of the Season award because they're too embarrassed, but we're going to try and pick out some positives from let's face it, an absolutely shite season. I've got a great panel of guests with me tonight. I've got Reese, I've got Gav, I've got Sati, Alex and Callum, who is going to try and stick with us amidst his Virgin Media issues. But we're going to everybody's going to pick their own player of the season, but no one is allowed to pick the same one. So you're not all allowed to pick Ronaldo. We're going to do a random order generator to decide who gets the best pick, and whoever has to pick fifth or sixth, good luck to you, because I can only think of about 3 players that are actually any good this season. So without further ado, let's go to the random order generator now. Can you see it on the screen? Is it there? It's not there, is it? One sec. I haven't pressed that. There we go. Right. The order is... Why has it not worked? It's not worked. Have I missed someone out? No. Yeah. Why is it giving me 1, 3, 4, 5, 6? I don't know. Anyway, Sati is first. Then Alex, then Callum, Reese, and then Gavin, you are last time. That is very unfortunate.
Yeah.
So, without further ado, Sati, first, who is going to be your nominee for the Player of the Season? No detail yet. We'll just make a list of them first, and we'll go from there.
Mine is going to have to be Cristiano Ronaldo.
How am I not surprised?
It was either him or Maguire. But...
Yeah, it's fair enough. It's fair enough. And Alex, who are you going for yours?
Probably the only other player who's been worth a damn, and David De Gea.
David De Gea, yeah. These are all the picks that I thought were going to come first. And who was next in that list? Callum,
me.
You can still pick a decent one, I think. Just about.
I was going to pick Fred. Thought Fred's definitely in with a bit of a shout. Been quite good.
Was Fred actually going to be your choice if you didn't come third?
No, it was going to be Ronaldo, obviously.
It's going to be mine.
I thought you were indicating that then.
I had the stats up on my phone. I was ready for Fred. I was literally ready for Fred. I had the stats and everything.
I think you can make a bit of a case for him, but yeah, let's see how you get on. Reese, who are you going for since all the good options are taken?
Well, they were all my 3 options. I've written them down: De Gea, Ronaldo, and Fred. So, in that order. It was There's literally them 3. I really, honestly can't pick. I wish it was one of those seasons where you could have honestly picked an abundance.
I think there's one more. I think there's probably one more you could say.
I think
we got.
There was Sancho in parts in the season, but it's a very slim sort of Sancho.
Are you willing to bat for Sancho? Because you have to pick one. It's got to be different. Them's the rules.
I feel like we're picking a five-side team. Go on then. I'll have Sancho.
You're gonna have Sancho.
Yeah.
And Gav, who are you gonna go for then? Can you think of anybody else
in this short list? Like I said in the way. Just then, can we vote for Kath from reception?
Right. I didn't know what you said before, yeah.
Yeah, I think she's done I'm going to put a special mention out for Anthony Elanga. He hasn't had a brilliant season, but for a young lad, first full season, he's going to be my pick.
That's a good shout.
Right, that is fair enough. Right, well, we'll go in the order that everybody gave them. So. I think Sati's got the easiest one to convince everybody with. But Sati, why have you chosen Cristiano Ronaldo? I mean, what has he done this year that's been any good for Manchester United? Go on, tell me.
Well, I think the first and foremost is that he finished as the top goal scorer for Manchester United, and I think he finished 3rd in the Premier League for the top goal scorer. On top of that, he's a 37-year-old athlete that has come back after conquering Europe at Real Madrid, then went to the Serie A, won the league title there, and come back to come back to a side that was in a transitional period that wasn't very good, and still aren't very good, and he still managed to do the job that he was required to do. And I think that takes a level of class and it takes a level of professionalism to still perform at one of the highest levels. I mean, there's been games this season where he's had off games, but at 37 years old, to finish as Manchester United top goal scorer and also to be third in the Premier League, I think it's phenomenal. And I think it just shows his level of standards. And I think what's the interesting stat about it is that we haven't won a game this season without Cristiano Ronaldo. And I think that is the key stat. A lot of people were trying to indicate to say that Ronaldo was the problem. But if you took away his goals and his match-winning goals, we'd be finishing 15th, 16th in the league. That's how bad it is. So I think he bought a spark. I mean, his debut, that was just, I mean, I was there, and that was just to even witness that made us just feel good about Manchester United again, and getting a brace on his debut, scoring his second front of Stretford End. That was special. And I think he just brought this ambience where it just showed his golfing class in terms of physical attributes as well as mental attributes compared to the rest of the players. And I think he brought this. A lot of people would say that he brought an ego with him, or he thought he was better than everyone else. But I totally disagree. I felt like when you have someone of Ronaldo's caliber in your team, you should be looking to play alongside him and want to compete with him and want to be on his wavelength, rather than looking at him thinking that he's Mr. Big Shot when he's not. He's been there. He's played in the best teams at Manchester United. He's played in the best teams at Real Madrid. He's gone to Juventus. So I think that he's undoubtedly been our player of the season. The close second was David De Gea, but I just felt like he did cause us a few issues in some games as well. Not to say he's solely to blame, but I think Ronaldo does edge it compared to any other person, because I think the stat of him picking up the most points for us and we haven't won a game without him just shows how important he was for us this season.
Yeah, and he has won a lot of Player of the Month awards, Premier League ones. I think he's got two. I think they've still
got two
this
season. Yeah, he got two.
And
he wasn't nominated for Player of the Year. I had that in it.
Oh, that was odd, that one.
Very odd. And I think he got United's Player of the Month about 4 times as well. But that's not a surprise. I think that's voted for by fans, I think, in it. So, if it's just United fans giving that one.
Not Callum, but by the look.
Cal has gone temporarily. I'm sure he'll be back. I hope he's back anyway, because he's got one of the picks. If not, then I might let one of the other lads have it. But is he coming back? He's back. Cal's back in the room. What, United or your internet?
Both.
Yeah.
On Ronaldo, for him to do what he's done this season in the mathematically worst performing Manchester United team, and still be getting the numbers that he's getting, it just shows the level that he actually puts himself at and plays at. He lost one of his kids. He was out, a game, 2 games, and then he was back. Game, 1 game, and he was back performing. And it shows what kind of person he is. And I was really surprised that he didn't get at least nominated for Player of the Year. Yeah,
it was a bit of a surprise, that one. But Gav, you're not allowed to argue anymore for Cristiano Ronaldo, because you have to.
Right.
You have to fight Alanga's corner. Right. Who was next? Was it Alex? I think you chose David De Gea. What argument can you put forward for him? I mean, obviously he's made some good saves, but he's had a bit of criticism this year as well in quite a lot of quarters. So
yeah,
there's a bit more of an argument to be had here.
Yeah, David De Gea's not perfect. I don't think anybody's going to say. I don't think you're going to say you pretend that he's perfect. In terms of this season, obviously, I mean, yeah, it's slim pickings this season, but he came back early for pre-season. He started the season really well, putting behind him what was, probably the lowest of the low. Like, you can't imagine how bad he would have felt after the Europa League final. You're going to feel bad after that. So he came back and I think he showed a sort of certain level of mental strength to sort of put that behind him when everybody just sort of went, well, he's done. So for him to come back, and he started the season he basically started the season on fire. There's plenty of games when you look back and you think, there's the games that Ronaldo won us, but there was also plenty of games where it's De Gea saves that has then put us into the position to allow Ronaldo to win the game. You think of the Villarreal game at Old Trafford. You think of, obviously, the West Ham away, the last-minute penalty save, which was sort of him sort of banishing the memories of the Europa League final. You think of the points that, you think about the 85th minute, whatever, save against Newcastle, the top corner one, that, holds us to a 1-1 draw. Otherwise, it would have been a defeat. There's the save against, there's the free kick save, the header from the free kick against Leicester, which again keeps it to 1-1. There's the the saves in games that we end up winning, well, semi-comfortably, but he makes them at important points. You think of the Brighton game, the incredible top corner save that's at 0-0. We end up winning the game 2-0, but if we go 1-0 down in that game, well, we probably lose because we're shit. And this season, not lose. This isn't the side that we saw under Ollie, where we used to go behind. I mean, last season we went behind for fun and just sort of came back every time. But I'm not gonna, I can't sit here and pretend that De Gea's been perfect. There's areas of his game that, obviously needs to be worked on. Obviously, he's going to have to work on them, I think, if he's going to, keep his spot under Ten Hag. But in terms of this season, in terms of players that have performed and actually, not even just performed, but actually put a better, actually worn the shirt with a better pride, and actually put in a better, actually showing a better fight and actually a better pride in the badge. And actually, rather than, when you see him, he's done a lot of, he's faced up to the media quite a few times, which I think he deserves. I think he deserves a lot of credit, to be honest, for after some defeats, it's difficult to face the media. I'd imagine it's even more difficult when you're trying to describe how bad we are in your second language. I can't imagine trying to get, trying to find the words is easy. But one thing he has done is he's not only found the words, but you can tell in the way that he's, the way that he said them, that he genuinely does care. And he genuinely does, he genuinely does love the club. And he does want the best. And, a bit of pride in the shirt, which not many players this season have shown at all.
Yeah, I mean, there's a case for maybe some of his comments after games have, helped his cause for people warming to him this year, especially because he didn't do a lot of media before at all in how long's he been here? Nearly 10 years, over 10 years. But I think this year's the first kind of season where he's come out and actually been pretty vocal. I mean, in a poor season, but I think that has helped win a bit of favour with some of the fans this season. Yeah, go on, Alex.
I think you're right. We've not, he's probably not. I don't think he's probably ever done media this much. There's probably an element of that where he's probably now more comfortable in the language. I mean, I'd imagine the first few years he probably wasn't, confident enough in English to face the media too often. And, I'm sure we can all totally understand that. But this season as well, the sort of facing the media, there's been that element of leadership in that, of sort of facing the media in sort of difficult circumstances. But no, I'm one of the oldest players. I'm one of the older players in the squad. I'm the longest serving player currently in the squad, unless we're going to count Phil Jones. But that's not worthwhile. For all due respect to Phil Jones, but there has been that sort of element of taking that responsibility on when I can't imagine many people were volunteering to face the media after, the defeat at Everton, for example.
Yeah, Maguire's got a bit of stick for not coming out and doing that as well, hasn't he? We're going to move.
In my eyes, it should be the captain's responsibility after bad defeats, but that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah, he's got that in his favour this season, De Gea. Cal, what are we going to go for? Are we going to go? You said Fred. Can you bat for him? Can you actually make a serious case for him? He has been better under Rangnick. I think that's one of the main things, isn't it?
I said Fred because you made these weird rules up. I mean, obviously,
I didn't.
said
I didn't make the rules.
So,
Ben made the rules.
Ben made the rules up. He's an idiot and a tit.
Most improved. I think he'd probably win most improved.
I'd go with I'd go with Fred. I mean, I don't think he's most improved. I think he's just been played in a position that he's actually more comfortable in. I don't think it's anything really to do with most improved. I think the guy was always plays as number 6 or as a double pivot, and it's not something that he could ever do. Then you put him up into a more number 8 role, which is what he plays for Brazil. And who'd have thought it? He's actually quite good at it. You know, you don't really play for teams like Brazil and actually be good at that role and then get played in a completely different position for your club. And then everyone shouts at you and says, how crap you are. Then you've got the defenders who pass the ball to him when he's never on, puts him in a load of trouble. And then when he gives the ball away, everyone goes, oh, Fred's crap. When in reality, Lindelof, Varane or Maguire just passed to him for no reason. It was stupid. He's definitely been one of our better players this season. I actually think he's probably been more. I think he's been. I'm trying to word this well because it's not going to come out right. But in my eyes, I think for the role that he's done, I think he's been better than De Gea. Because when you turn around and look at De Gea and go, oh, he's done all these saves. The guy's a frigging goalkeeper. He's supposed to stop the ball going in the net. And everyone keeps praising him for doing this, right? Which is great. Some brilliant saves. And I don't want to come across like Roy Keane here. Or Carl
just about to say, all right, Roy.
But for Christ's sake, the guy's supposed to stop the ball going in the net. And when he does it, great. But he's also supposed to come and claim a cross. He's also supposed to be able to find a pass to someone in a red shirt, which he can't do. He's also supposed to catch a ball, not punch it every single time. He's also supposed. You talk about leadership with De Gea. He can't even command his own frigging 18-yard area. So at this stage, yeah, it's all well and good him coming out and saying, "Do you know what? Yeah, you leave in the summer, blah 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 blah." Do you know what, mate? If I'm honest, Dean Henderson should be our number 1 in August. And this isn't me going, oh, I'm a big Dean Henderson fan. I just think our defence is so much more solid with a commanding goalkeeper who can pass the ball behind them. I respect De Gea a lot, and I do like him. He's been a brilliant servant to us. He's stuck with us when we've been crap. But at this stage, has he stuck with us? Or has the Spanish teams just realised the guy can't pass a ball, which is why he's nowhere near the Spanish squad, by the way. And then Real Madrid have gone, oh, actually, maybe we should go for Courtois instead because he can do all the things we thought De Gea might be able to do. And now he can't. Anyway, I said Fred, didn't I? Yeah, I think Fred's been really good this season. I think he's definitely improved in terms of, because he's changed his position, his performances have been more consistent. He's clearly more comfortable on the ball in that position. I think his comments a while ago sort of summed him up perfectly when he said, you know, I kind of carry the piano for the artist to play. You know, I think he knows his role in the squad. Ultimately, I think somebody better probably should come in. And I think we probably will see that this summer. But I think you might be looking at Fred possibly playing with him a lot more than Mctominy throughout next season, should we get a number 6 or a so-called defensive midfielder, who I have no idea, because it seems like Aston Villa have decided to be better at transfers again this summer than us. Excuse me. So at this stage, I'll probably go Fred. I mean, Ronaldo's the obvious answer. I think Fred actually should be with a slightly small shout. I think if you're gonna look at a dark horse, I think Fred definitely is a Player of the Year candidate, mainly because obviously he's been playing in a better position. But I think the other reason is probably there's just not really anybody else. I think De Gea will obviously be on the shortlist, mainly because everyone thinks he's made great saves, which, to be fair, he probably has. But I think as his role as a goalkeeper, it's more than that. And ultimately, I don't think that is enough. You know, the guy's bloody glued to his line like a frigging prick stick, for Christ's sake. So I wouldn't have him in the Player of the Year shortlist, to be honest. I think the obvious answer is Ronaldo. I think Fred probably should be the second guy. Definitely a dark horse. Alanga, because he's come into the squad and actually not done a bad job. And probably Hannibal for kicking shit out of the Scousers, because he was the only player that decided to do it when he came on. I mean, friggin' hell, Manchester United versus Liverpool, and every single one of them bats off and couldn't be bothered even going near them. He comes on and nearly breaks one of the legs. I respect that.
It's enough for the award alone, isn't it? As I think some people agree with you anyway. Cal, Fred was decent, but the bar was low. I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, when I was making a list of them before, I could literally only think of 3, and then my special mention was probably Alanga, just for breaking through and just managing to get some game time more than we would have expected. But obviously, there's further reasons for that, not necessarily because he's absolutely quality or anything. Reese, I think you had Sancho, didn't you? He's had patches. He's had patches where he looks like he'd turned it on, but then, like a lot of players, he's dipped in and out of form.
I was looking forward to talking about the other candidates I had in front of Sancho. But since that's not, since I have to choose Sancho, then I'll sort of make some sort of case for him. I mean, I think in terms of Sancho, we've got a kid who's got bags of potential, hasn't he? Absolutely bags of potential. He's 22 years old, only just turned 22 in March. He's got absolutely bags of potential, that kid. And from what he was doing at Borussia, as much as everyone wants to call it a bit of a Mickey Mouse league or whatever now these days, he's still got amazing potential. And I think he showed that in fits and starts in the league. I think it was a Spurs game where he was shit up, and he's just done it in snippets. And I think when you come into a team where there's been such issues, and then you're expected to sort of produce goals and assists like we all expected from him at his time at Borussia, it was unrealistic. And I think he needed kind of more senior figures around him to step up and playing well and to support him and help him. And just to expect the kid to just come into a big team like Man United, in a league that he's not, let's be honest, not played in before, as much as he started his youth career over here. It wasn't a league he's played at that kind of senior level before. It was pretty unrealistic that he was just going to hit the ground running. So I think, if anything else, Sancho's got enough about him, I think, into next season, hopefully under Ten Hag as well, to show that he could realistically be an honest candidate for this award next season. I think, obviously, he's not a candidate this season as much as I'm going to sit here and pretend that he is. Because he wasn't as good as De Gea, Ronaldo, and possibly Fred at third place. But he is definitely a one for the future. And I think he showed a little bit enough about him that, he didn't do a Di Maria when he threw the towel in. Let's be honest, Sancho, even though he was a kid, he was a big name. He came to the club and he was still, a lot of the world knew about him and about his talent. And he came and he's had pretty dire performances. The team have had pretty dire performances, but I think he's a kid who wants to stick at it and show what he's about. And that's good. And I think with under Ten Hag, like I say, he'll really prove his worth. So I think next season we've got a massive opportunity to see him do some really class things next season. And I think he's been a bit underlooked. I think he's been a bit overshadowed by a lot of the crap that's gone on in the club and the issues surrounding certain players. And we've got a world class talent in that kid in the team, and I think we need to remember that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's not come into an easy situation at all, has he? I mean, and no one shined. He's also not played in the position that he would normally play in.
Do you know what,
Dortmund? I mean, he played on the right a lot there.
Do you know what though? He didn't shine when he came in, and I think it was a bit half expected. Like Reece said, he wasn't going to hit the ground running when he came in. But I was quite surprised to see so many people on Twitter saying how bad he was, or oh my god, what a waste of money. The guy's class and he's still young, and Reece is right. We genuinely do have, if used right, we genuinely have a player that could be with us for the next 10 years and lead us to hopefully something big. But he needs to be used right. And at this point, for a brief period, he probably was our best player, because even at that that period where Ronaldo wasn't scoring. I think he went like 9 or 10 games where he only got 1 goal. Sancho probably was our best player. He was better than Fernandes. He was better than Freddie. He probably was, for those couple of months, our player of the year, but obviously for those 2 months. But he was very good for us. It was like he'd finally gone, I'm here in the Premier League and I play for Man United and I want to show everyone why I cost that amount of money. I mean,
I think it was like a bit of a character dip test for a lot of players, and included him, wasn't it? To see, like, look, it's going to be a shit season this season, but can you take that can you take that punishment and let's see what we can do next season? It was a bit of a character dip test for me, and I think he passed that.
Well, yeah, exactly. The fact that the guy did have a bad start to the season, then the rest of the team decided that they were all in Dubai and couldn't be asked playing for Man United anymore, and just being utter wank. The thing is, he decided to go, do you know what? I play for United, and I realise that I play for United, and I deserve to wear this shirt. I mean, ultimately, as it came to the end of the season, not a single one of them probably deserved to wear it, bar Ronaldo. But for a good period, Sancho was one of the few where I was quite proud to say, yeah, you play for United.
Even when he
can't say that. Say again,
even when he come on against Liverpool, he was the only one that come on and showed intent. He just felt he didn't care who the opposition was. He come on and he just literally just ran at Fabinho, put him on his arse. Then he ran at Trent, and he was the only one that came on and showed intent in that game. And what you just said there, realising he's a Manchester United player, he didn't fear the opposition. He didn't think these lot are better than me. He felt, do you know what, I'm going to give it a good go against these lot.
Well, yeah, exactly. I think there's a really good thing as well at the minute that he hasn't been selected for England, because nobody cares about England, realistically. I've got a bit of a... I mean, obviously I support them in World Cups and the Euros, but when it's friendlies and shitty things like that, I don't really see the point in it. I think it's utter garbage. I think Southgate, any good manager, would have won the World Cup and Euros with that squad, but instead decided to play 27 defensive players on the pitch. You know, I'm glad that Rashford and Sancho haven't been selected because, you know, I mean, I'm surprised Maguire was selected, to be honest, but people go, oh, he's good for England. Well, yeah, I'd be good for England playing against Moldova and Andorra. But when with Sancho and Rashford able to have the summer off, I don't see an issue with that. And the fact that they're hopefully going to come back next season with Ten Hag, realise that a lot more is needed, a lot more effort, a lot more intent, desire, tactical aspects of it as well. It's going to need a lot more thought process around it. I'm hoping these players are the ones that do perform, because ultimately it's coming to a stage now where these players are on the chopping block. I think every single one of them is. And I think we spent a large amount of money on. I think it's quite obvious that it doesn't matter. I don't think Ten Hag is going to be caring for that. I think he's just going to go to the board and say, look, you might have spent a lot of money on, but you bloody shouldn't have, because he's garbage and I don't want him playing for my team. And I think Sancho will be one of the players who will really take to Ten Hag's system. I think we could be sitting here in 12 months going, Sancho was player of the season, and not even having a debate about it. I think Ronaldo will probably take a slight backseat, because it looks like we're getting a striker this season, this summer. Hopefully, I don't know who, but you know, I think we genuinely could be looking at Sancho being player of the season next year, because, you know, I can't really see anyone else being as good as him. I mean, I could be wrong, of course. I could be absolutely wrong, and he could break his leg tomorrow and have to play for United again. Or it could just be shit, because it's Man United, and they probably will be. But, you know, I hope I'm wrong.
All we want is a list more than 3 players long, and we want all them to be actual genuine candidates for player of the season, because I think realistically we know we've only got 2. But Gav, you're about to bat for Anthony Elanga. I mean, he has had a breakthrough season. He's played a lot more than we thought he would. Obviously, the Greenwood situation happening, Martial going out on loan, etc., Cavani being injured. These have all been major factors, but he's showed some glimpses and had some good moments, and actually, you know, shown that he wants to play for the shirt, which is, again, not something that a lot of players have done this term.
So first of all, Brendan in the chat, yes, I am. Just to answer that. No, I just had the Roma match on, that's why it was flashing in my face. So first of all, I just want to say Ronaldo, he's sort of his own separate entity. I think the only people that predicted that he wouldn't do well this season were the media. I think everybody in fans and people like that were tipping him to carry on being Cristiano Ronaldo. Even when he went for that patch where I think it was about 9 games where he didn't score, you still expected him to come back, even though people were writing him off. So he's almost sort of the player of the year before he'd even kicked the ball, because he's just that good. Then you've got De Gea, most goals conceded ever in the Premier League. So, I don't think De Gea should be the player of the year. Don't get me wrong. If you look at it, under Ollie, he played with Maguire and Lindelof in front of him for pretty much the whole time. So he didn't have to come off his line, because basically we played a deep line, counter-attacking football. So he was always on his line. He never had to come out and be sort of like the sweeper keeper or passing out from the back in the way that he's expected to or going to be expected to. So although he hasn't had the best season stat-wise, the saves that he did pull off, kept us from being mid-table. Sancho, he didn't really hit the ground running under Ollie. He was spit spots, the odd start here and there, a few minutes, and when he was starting, wasn't necessarily in his own position. He had a few games where he had that purple patch where he was playing really well, and then he sort of dropped off towards the end of the season and picked up an injury. Fred started the season under Ollie the same way that we know Fred, playing in a role that isn't really his role. When Ranić come in and put him in a position that was actually his position, you saw an improvement. And one thing you always get from Fred is tenacity, energy, and he will put a shift in. And one of my points was going to be the goals that he scored this season. He's actually, last season we would have been, instead of shouting shoot, we'd have been shouting pass. And then this season he's come up with some bangers. So, special mention for that. Elanga. So for a 20-year-old to come into the team and basically be thrust into first team football for the full season and have to be sort of relied upon as much as he has been fantastic. I think he burnt out towards the end of the season, but I think that's to be expected. According to this, he's played 21 matches, 2 goals and 2 assists in the Prem. He had that amazing goal in the Champions League. And, he's put in a shift. He's put that shirt on and you can see that he's actually playing for the badge. Something that you don't see from a lot of the players. And for him to step into Rashford's role, and not only step into it, but when Rashford was fit, keep Rashford on the bench. That shows how far he's come this season. And, for a kid his age to be doing what he's done this season, although he hasn't been setting the world alight, he's not like our previous winger that we had. This, he's going to be a special talent, but he's not generational in that sense. But for him to have done what he's done this season, I really think that he needs to be sort of held quite high regard. I did want to have a special mention for Bruno. He hasn't had the best seasons by his standards. In fact, the petulance, he's not been the Bruno that we know. But the goals and assists have still been quite good for a normal person in this position. So I did want to just have a special mention for him. But I think, for me, it should be Ronaldo, Elanga, Fred, Sancho, De Gea. Because although De Gea has made some fantastic saves, you can't end the season on 0 goal difference, conceding the most amount of goals that we've ever conceded in the Prem, and say that it was all the defence and not the keeper.
I think it's a little harsh on De Gea, that, if I'm honest. and I'm not.
Yeah, but I'm fighting for Elanga. I'm going to fight for Elanga, haven't I? You know, I got to stick to
De Gea this season also made statistically more saves in a season than he's ever made before.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the saves he's had to make have been because of his own mistakes and because of his own doing from his commanding of his area and not being able to pass the ball. However, he did still save it. I think the defensive mistakes and issues in front of him have been a bigger problem in terms of how many goals we've conceded. So I think it's quite harsh to bring up the 57 goals conceded just because of De Gea. I definitely think the defence has got a big role to play. I think that's quite harsh on De Gea, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it's the whole structure of the team, though, isn't it?
I'm fighting for Team Elanga, so I got to stick the boot in somewhere.
No, you've done right. I mean, a lot of the problems have been caused by other problems in the pitch. It's just a domino effect of not having a proper defensive midfielder, and that's caused everybody problems in a team that did a lot better than it did.
I think
did a lot better last season.
I think I also saw it start. It was like 8. It was something like De Gea conceded 8 goals off defensive deflections, and it was like the most conceded by a goalkeeper in the season. It was like the most conceded in the season deflections wise in countless years or something like that, which says a lot, to be honest. But
yeah, well, we were in disarray at the back quite a lot of times, weren't we? So yeah, that is something to be expected.
He's up the save of the season.
Twice. He's the only He's the only goalkeeper in the. He's the only goalkeeper in the vote twice.
That's all we're competing for. Brilliant. Right, we're gonna move on to standout moments and whether we think that your players are gonna have a future under Ten Hag and just generally, I guess. But before we do that, we just want to say that we're aiming for 6,000 subscribers on the channel before the start of next season, if we can possibly do it. So please, if you're watching, put likes, get a like on the video. Make sure you're subscribed, etc. Keep retweeting on Twitter, all that good stuff, and it'll obviously helps us get up the algorithms and helps us, reach more fans. So that's what we want to be doing before the start of next season.
Could I just jump in as well there, Si? Me, Si, and Reese are going to be doing a bit more hosting as well over the next couple of months with the off season. We've got loads of shows coming up as well for you all to watch. We've got great panels lined up. I'm hosting on Sunday. Reese, are you hosting on Friday?
Yeah, I think we've got goal of the season.
So we've got some really good shows coming up for you with Reese and me hosting it throughout the rest of the week. We want to try and get 6,000 subscribers as quickly as possible. We want you to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, share it on Twitter. We want you to like it. It gets in the algorithm of YouTube. It makes us a bigger audience. Reese is going to be doing a lot of spaces as well on Twitter, like we have been doing recently. So you can get involved in them as well. But yeah, we appreciate all the support, but keep commenting, keep liking, keep sharing, keep retweeting, keep doing what you can and try and help us grow even more if you can. Back to you, Si.
Thank you for the little segue, Carl. Beautiful. Yeah, I think we're about 800 away, maybe 700 away from the target, and I'm sure we'll have, like Carl said, we're going to have plenty of shows coming up. Transfer season means plenty to talk about as well, so, and there's be a bit of pre-season as well if anybody's interested in that.
Loads of bullshit stories to talk about. But we're going to speak about them anyway.
We're signing Wesley Sneijder. Did you know him?
Yeah. Guy Tan, yeah. Right. Well, Cal, do you still want to go first on the next round of standout moments?
First, mate? I'm going to go first. I'm going to shoot because the Wi-Fi is just ridiculous. It's constantly cutting out. So I'm going to. I'll go first. What's the question then, Si? Go on.
The question is, for your particular player, what's his standout moment? And whilst you're at it, do you think he has a future under Ten Hag once he starts the job properly?
Oh, Jesus. Fred's
2 questions.
Moment. I think he's got a future under Ten Hag. I think mainly as a squad player. Given we get the midfielders over the next couple of windows, excuse me. Standout moment. Jesus, someone's going to have to help me out here.
He scored a good goal against Crystal Palace.
His goal against Palace, yeah.
Leeds as well.
Leeds away, yeah.
The one away at Ellen Road.
I'll probably go the Leeds one, yeah.
Played really well in that 3-2 win against Arsenal, to be fair to him.
I'll go with that because I was there. I'll go with his performance against Arsenal just because I was there. It was Carrick's last game, I believe, as well. Was it Carrick's last game? Or was it the Chelsea.
Yeah.
It was the Arsenal game,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Yeah, I'll go with that one. I thought he did a great performance in that. Helped Carrick get his couple of wins. Yeah, I mean,
all the managers have trusted him.
Well, yeah, I think there's a reason for that as well. I think he's really versatile. He can do a job for you. He can play the six, not brilliantly, but at least he's there. Fred's probably the least standout player in the world, though. He doesn't score, he doesn't really assist. He kind of does just give the ball to the better players. So I'll go with his performance against Arsenal, his goal at Ellen Rose. We'll go with him, and we'll stick with that. Also, if we're doing any more sections on players being disappointing, I'll keep it short and sweet. They're all crap. Every single one of them is a disgrace, and they should never play for United again.
Apart from Fred.
Yeah.
Right, guys,
Sweet.
enjoy the show because I'm really struggling here. I'll get
your
Wi-Fi sorted. Trust me. Have a good show, guys. Everyone enjoy. Remember, like, subscribe, share with your friends, comment, get involved in the comments and debate people and let everyone know what you're thinking.
Do it.
Enjoy, guys.
Cheers,
See you, Callum, on Sunday. Cheers, mate.
See you Sunday. Bye.
Right, Sati, you're up. Standout moment for Cristiano Ronaldo, and this is something that strangely has been debated. Does he have a future under Ten Hag? I mean, I think he made it pretty clear on Monday in his press conference that he's in his plans with the goals he scores.
I think for me, there's two standout moments. I think obviously one, his debut. His second debut, I should say. I think that's going to live in a long memory for a lot of United fans, especially the younger United generation, because they'll see Cristiano Ronaldo back at Old Trafford scoring 2 goals. But I think for me, on a personal level, it'd be the hat-trick against Tottenham. I think that would be the standout moment for me. I think it was just phenomenal. Like, he just first of all, the long range screamer. I know that's up for Goal of the Season award as well. So I think that was just that game just typified his new role as a forward, that he's there to get the goals, to pull a rabbit out the hat, as you like, and drag us through the win. And I think for the standout moment for me would be the 3-2 win against Tottenham, when the odds were really against us, probably at 2-2. We'd probably look like the team that were going to lose. But he stepped up and he scored a brilliant header and eventually won us the game, but also got us the hat-trick. So that'd be the standout moment. And into the second question, I mean, I believe that he does have a role under Erik ten Hag. I think, I know obviously in the press conference he isn't going to give too much away whether if he was going to tell Ronaldo to move on or Ronaldo was going to choose to move on. But I just feel like having someone of his presence there he will always bring goals to the team. And I think, like, this season alone, he's brought 18 Premier League goals. If we were to get a striker that would accompany him and maybe take the pressure off him, if you like, it would just make it a match made in heaven for me personally. Like, he's had to play. I think he had to play a majority of our games this season because of issues in the forward role. No Martial. Greenwood obviously had his issues. Rashford was not on form. Cavani was picking and choosing when to play and not to play. And obviously Sancho's a little bit inconsistent. So the others around him didn't help. But I just feel like under Ten Hag, I feel like he's gonna get us goals. And I think that's all. I think that's what will be stressed in training, that you've got a proven goal scorer there. Do the hard work around him and actually feed him. And having the second striker in backup, whether who we look at, I know there's been a lot of talk of Darwin Núñez, and there's been a few others on the list. But I think that's what's going to be important, is that we keep someone, especially with his level of professionalism and also his level of quality, that stays in the club. That there's still that little bit of looking up to, if you like, when you see the likes of young Savage and the other youngsters looking up to him. He's going to have that presence, especially with Erik ten Hag looking to bring young academy graduates in and the reserve team players coming in. I think it's important that we keep him, and I do believe that he does have a role in this team, especially with what he's contributed this season.
Yeah, definitely. I would also agree that is for me, his best moment. I think he's provided most of our best moments, to be fair, though, and a lot of the big moments of the season have come down to him. So yeah, it's quite a hard thing to choose, but I reckon the hat trick against the top side as well is definitely one of them. Yeah.
And I think just to add to that point as well, what I'd say about you in Ten Hag's system, a lot of it hasn't been his fault in terms of playing as many games as possible. We didn't have a choice. We didn't have a choice to rotate, and when we did try to rotate, I believe it was against Everton, we ended up drawing 1-1. I think that was Martial's Premier League goal that he scored, and we ended up drawing 1-1, and we brought him off the bench looking to try and grab the winner late on. So I think we didn't have the options. Like I remember when he played with Greenwood in the first few matches, and they did play well together. But I think he even got frustrated with Greenwood. He wasn't on his wavelength and stuff. But I think getting a second striker in under Ten Hag's regime, I think that's going to be something to look out for. I think that's going to be a little bit of a dark horse there.
Yeah, his load does need managing for sure. I mean, he has had criticism in some parts. I'll be honest myself that I've probably been critical of him in the sense that I think he affected other players' game. I don't think the rest of the team adjusted to him, but what he's delivered is still what you would expect of him, which I don't think you can fault personally. But he has still managed to be quite divisive, even though he's probably everybody's player of the season. He's probably my player of the season, even if I've not agreed with every time he's been selected. But yeah, we'll move on to De Gea for you, Alex. What is your one particular standout moment for David De Gea? And I think you've touched on it before, but do you think he remains in place under Ten Hag?
I think his standout moment for the season, I think, has to be the penalty save, the last-minute penalty save at West Ham. I think that has to be it in terms of, sort of obviously last minute we've been denied 3 clear-cut penalties earlier in the game, but that's by the by. Ollie was smashing his bottle at the sidelines. Last minute, obviously. He hadn't saved the penalty in 100,000 years, or that's what it felt like.
Yep.
Nobody was really giving them much hope, and obviously, at the end of the day, considering, looking back, he's probably got us Europa League with that save, as opposed to avoiding the conference. If you look at it, obviously a lot happens, but moments like that, points like that, sort of a win, not be at the time we were looking at it and thinking, that could be crucial in getting top 4 or whatever. Obviously, we didn't know then that the season was going to necessarily take the turn that it did. But yeah, last minute penalty save is always going to, that's always going to be the pick because, he did that.
And he bounced back. Yeah, and he bounced back from his Europa League.
That's it.
He didn't save any penalties in that, and he also missed one as well. So he's a bit of a penalty hoodoo, and he was, by all accounts, working on his penalty saving technique whilst he was away at the Euros. So that's obviously paid off for him in a big way. I think he saved a couple this season, didn't he? Actually, not just
he saved 2. He saved the one against Watford, which was actually 2 against Watford because they made it.
He had to retake one, didn't he?
Yeah, the Watford one he saved, and then they retook it, and he saved the rebound, and he saved the retake. So I think he's the only goalkeeper this season in the Premier League that saved more than 1 penalty, which is
fair play. That West Ham one, I'd written it off. Barely could even watch it. This is going in because his record's just so poor. But he turned it around. It was a big moment. I think, did that take us top again? I think it might have done. Who knows? We were definitely top after the first game of the season. Well, at some point, I think, weren't we? So I think that might have been then. Felt like a big moment, but not to be in the end. Reese, your Sancho standout moment. Sorry, Al.
His future under Ten Hag.
Oh yeah. Sorry, get ahead of myself.
Ten Hag, I touched on that before. I think obviously he's got things that he's going to have to work on. I think in terms of his immediate future, I think he starts next season as number 1. I think he has to. I think at this point, when you've got 100 issues in a squad, you don't fix issue number 100 first, not unless you're mad. So, let's prioritize obviously the main issues first. I think he'll get his chance to prove himself, see if he can adapt. I wouldn't write him off because people have written him off. It feels like throughout his career, and every single time he seems to prove them wrong. So who knows what he can do? But immediate future, he's got a future. Where that goes, obviously, in the long run, he's getting older as well, so you never know. Although saying that 32 isn't that old for a goalkeeper.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a popular opinion now as well. I think it feels like it might be coming to an end, but yeah, there's definitely more pressing issues in the squad for sure. It's just, and we know United's history of getting transfers done. They need a lot this season, more than they ever have done in a transfer window since I can remember anyway. So yeah, I would agree that it's probably way down the pecking order in terms of the priority. Reese, we will now come to you since I was racing ahead before. What's your standout Sancho moment? And again, I don't think I need to ask you whether Sancho is in Ten Hag's plan and whether he has a future at United. I think we know he does, but
yeah,
his standout moments for you, or his standout moment. I can think of mine. Interesting to see if you got the same one.
Yeah, there was a few, wasn't there? Not very many, but there was a few. I think the Chelsea moment when he went through from the halfway line, I think that was a good moment for him. Although we drew that game, I think the Man City goal. There was a moment in that game where we thought, "Oh God, we can actually do something here against Man City," and then it was a good, well taken goal. Obviously, then we ended up losing the game, but I thought it was the brightest spark out of our players in that game. I think his European performances were the best, were the better ones. I think his goal against Villarreal when he hit the crossbar, and we won 2-0 away from home. So that was a good result, and that kind of put some demons to rest in terms of Villarreal and how kind of poor we'd been against them. And we beat them at home as well. I was at the game when Ronaldo scored the winner in the last minute. But I think his European performances were some of the best ones we've seen of him this season. Seems to suit him a little bit more. I don't know if it's that kind of that style. Maybe it just suits Sancho a little bit more, where he's playing midweek. I don't know, but he seems to be better. He seems to be better in Europe than he was in the league. But ultimately, I think it's been few and far between. But there's definitely a player in there, isn't there? In Sancho, he's like I said, he's only just turned 22. Some of his England performances have been a little bit better when he's played in some of the friendlies this season. Albeit I know they're against some traffic cones of teams, but I think generally, like, he's a 22-year-old kid who's got at least another 8 years before he reaches that peak of his powers. So, if we can nurture him and we can get the players around him, he's going to shine. He's going to be a massive part of what we're doing next season and the seasons after that. So, he's 100% got a place in this team for under Ten Hag for next season, I think. So,
yeah, many years to come, I would say. And you did choose the same moment I would have chose for Sancho as well, the Chelsea goal. It felt massive, that, didn't it? Because obviously we'd had such a torrid time. It was around the time that, was it Carrick's second or first game in charge when he was interim? I think it might have been his second game, mightn't it? But yeah. I remember going mad.
I think with Sancho a little bit, the best thing about Sancho is, like, I think we saw it with Ronaldo early on in his career at United, where, when they're constantly on the ball, they constantly seem to be getting the ball, and they constantly seem to be a threat at the fullbacks, and they're dribbling constantly, and then they're beating 1 and 2, and yet they might try a cross and it'll go out for it won't go to anybody. It'll go out for a goal kick, or it'll go out for a corner. But then they'll do it again and again and again and again and again, and they're on the ball, 10, 15 times. And there was a couple of moments in the season where Sancho got that kind of joy, where he looked like the constant threat, like the ball was constantly coming to him, thinking, right, we've got something here. We keep giving it to Sancho, he's going to create something. And I just think he needs more moments like that next season, where he feels like the team are playing to him and asking him to do something with it. And I think that'll come for Sancho next season. I think they'll realise that, and he'll gain confidence through that as well. So yeah, like I say, it's some big future for Sancho, I think, for next season and season after.
Yeah, 100%. Another young player, Gav Elanga. What's your standout moment for him? I think I can guess yours as well. And do you think he has a future under Ten Hag. I mean, I think that one's a little bit more up in the air. I mean, he likes his young players, obviously, but you know, there's a chance that more quality is going to be brought in. So how much game time he gets is, you know, up for debate because we don't know who Ten Hag's going to like. But what's your opinion? Do you think he will get game time under Ten Hag? And yeah, what's his standout moment for him?
Well, special mention to Sancho because he single-handedly derailed Chelsea's season. So special mention for that. The Madrid goal, obviously, for him to come off the bench away from home in the Champions League and score that goal, especially after the penalty miss. I'm pretty sure it was not long after that. It showed a level of maturity, and it sort of give you Rashford vibes in the sense of how he went out there with confidence and he took it really well. I mean, he said that he'd studied the goalkeeper and the positioning and things like that. So that was sort of where the boy became the man. You sort of saw him come from the youth to that senior team. It was sort of like a progression. You could see it in that one goal, and everybody was behind him. I mean, don't get me wrong, we don't talk about what happened in the second leg, but for that moment alone, it was like, yeah, welcome to the senior team. I do think he has got a role to play. I would hope that he's not as prominent. I think this season we've sort of had to rely on him more than we should have. I think he needs to have a little bit more of a shared role, whether that's with Rashford or Maybury or even on Sancho's side. I'm not so sure, but I think he needs a little bit more, I don't know, development under Ten Hag, a little bit of guidance, a little bit of an arm around him, saying, right, okay, you're not going to be the number one on this side. You're going to share the role, share the responsibility. You're going to learn from Sancho. You're going to learn from whoever, if we get anybody in. People like Ronaldo being at the team, you know, people like Alanga look up to him, and the reason that he is so good for United is not just because of what he does on the pitch, it's what he does off the pitch. The work that he can do with the likes of Alanga. Alanga is literally gushing about Ronaldo, and it can only be a benefit to the team for the players like him moving forward. So as a breakthrough season, I think it's been fantastic. It sort of petered out a little bit, but I think that's because he was just burnt out from being overused. So I think, yeah, he's got a good chance of playing well next season. I really do.
Yeah, you've argued his corner well, Gav. You've done it well. Considering you got 6th pick, you've done all right there. Congrats. Right. Before we decide who is the winner and who made the most convincing case, we're just going to quickly go through the letdowns. I know it's a positive show, but I think we have to touch on what has been a poor season, and you know, think about who let us down the most. Which particular player? No, I don't want a big list off you because we could be here all night and we've got a list of 26 players, and you know, we've only got a few minutes. So yeah, roughly that. Yeah. So Sati, who would you say your biggest letdown is or disappointment is for the season, and do you hold any hope for them going forward?
I think, obviously, I think I'm going to just state the obvious, what we're all thinking and what we're all going to say. As a collective, they all have been, as a group, as a team, a massive letdown. And I think that's something just to point out. Each individual in that team has had a period or a phase in the season where they have massively let us down and deserve a lot of criticism from the fans. And obviously, that has cost us in a lot of games. Individually, to say somebody that let us down quite a lot, it's difficult because there's a few. I mean, I know the obvious picks would lead to Maguire straight away, and now there's been games where I've watched. There's been games where I've actually been to Old Trafford and I've actually watched the games, and Maguire just becomes a scapegoat, almost like what Fred was in the first and the second season, where each mistake they always blame the player that caused the mistake, not the actual what's happened before, like the phase before, if for instance. But I'm actually, it could be any of the defenders, but I've people might disagree with me on this one, but one of the letdowns for me is probably going to be Scott McTominay.
He has had a poorer season compared
I just
to
think just
before.
my point of it is it's just the basics more than anything. I understand the team is very dysfunctional and there's a lot of problems from the spine back to front, but I just feel like the basics. I think he finished something around 64th or 65th in the rankings for passing accuracy and finding his teammate. And I think I know he probably is playing a bit out of position, but as a central midfielder for Manchester United, the key attribute you got to have a good passing accuracy. You got to at least find your teammate. And I just think that sometimes passion and aggression gets lost in the way of actually having that technical ability. I mean, I was at Palace away and I watched Hannibal, and every time he was on the ball, he was technically still very good. He still had a little bit of that quality about him, and he sort of had the composure, and he'll pick a player out and he'll find a player. But when I watch Scott, he just sometimes lacks that technical aspect, and I think he's been a letdown for me, because I felt in this season we finished second, I felt he was very good and he actually performed at a really good standard. But I think he's been probably the letdown for me this season.
It's a familiar tale that I think a lot of players have just dropped off from where they were last season, rather than maybe not being atrocious players. I mean, some of them just aren't good enough. We know that, but yeah, I think that's one of the ones where you're at least hoping that it's just a drop off rather than an actual, just a poor player that's got away with it. Alex, who's your biggest disappointment or letdown for the season?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I agree in terms of Scott McTominay. I feel like with McTominay in particular, he's just not really kicked on when you would have hoped that he would have. And in midfield, I feel like he sometimes hides as opposed to showing for the ball. Like, he doesn't seem to want the ball. And there's all the talk about, for example, De Gea's passing into midfield. But I don't think it's necessarily helped when players don't necessarily show for the ball. You think about, there's all the Alisson and Henderson. Well, one's passing into Thiago and one's passing into Rodri and De Bruyne, which is, a totally different level. In terms of players that are disappointed, I mean, we could be here forever. I think, to avoid the obvious of sort of Maguire and all that, I'd probably go Marcus Rashford. Because
I'd say that is one of the obvious ones, to be honest with you, this season. I don't like saying that personally, but yeah.
I think it's one of the obvious ones, but I feel like with Rashford, obviously came into the season off of sort of an injury, off of surgery or whatever. First of all, I think it was stupid that he went to the Euros to sit on the bench and play 5 minutes. And I can't imagine he went to the Euros and didn't know that would be his role, because unless he's an umpty or a bit of an idiot, surely you're going to ask and basically go, am I in your plans? And if Southgate's gone, no, well then why are you going to sit on the bench and, for the experience? Well, go get yourself sorted. I think with Rashford, one of the things that's disappointed me is it's not necessarily the drop-off in form, because I can cope with everybody everybody has a drop off in form. That is natural. It doesn't matter whether you're Marcus Rashford or you're Cristiano Ronaldo. Everybody has, drop offs in form. That's not, it is part of the game. What's disappointing me most with Rashford is it feels like the desire's gone. It looks at times like that desire, that love for the game is just no longer there. He's slouching. You see him. There's been a few times where I've watched him, just in the warm up at Old Trafford, and he's just sort of half-ass kicking it, in the passing drills and stuff. And it's he gave off a mantra of I hate being here. I don't like, this is such a difficult job. It's like you're playing football for Manchester United, you're a professional footballer. we would all love to be professional footballers. Of course we would. And like gave off that aura of it being so, and then like there was the games where it was almost like Ronaldo's telling him to run and he's jogging, and like Rashford, for all his faults and sort of his shortcomings as a player, I think there's still elements of his game that he's not really developed since he first broke into the side. He's always had that effort. He's always had that desire. And this season, it feels like, for whatever reason, not only has his form deserted him, but his actual desire to play and actually put in, play badly. That's fine. It's not great. I'd rather you played well, but play badly, fine. But give 110% every single match, every single second you're on that football pitch. And in my opinion, there is no excuse for not giving 110% because that's the least you can do.
Yeah, I feel like he's been pretty emblematic of the supposed disharmony in the squad, and it's not hard to believe that we've seen loads of stories coming out about this and that going wrong, and who was unhappy with what, etc., over the last few days and over the course of the season. To be fair, and I think he's kind of worn it a little bit in the sense that he hasn't looked happy. He hasn't looked happy playing football, which is hopefully there's nothing deeper to it than that, and that it is just something within the club and nothing deeper than that. But yeah, he has looked off it and looks like he's lost a bit of his passion for it. Hopefully he can find it again over the summer.
He got engaged today, didn't he?
Did he? Well,
yeah, I think he got engaged.
Something to be happy about then. That's good. Reese, your biggest letdown. I feel like have you got a big list as long as your arm, or?
I have got a big list actually. Yeah. It's probably the team we picked every week. My reasonings for some of these players are mainly just for the fact that they've all had the teams that have gone by. The players that have come in and done well. I mean, even in sort of Ibrahimovic at one stage, but Rooney as well, and stuff towards the tail end of those teams that were like doing well, and we saw the kind of those players come and still maintain a sort of level, and when they left, the baton was kind of handed over to people like Rashford and Pogba and Shaw, and it's like those players needed to step up. Then they couldn't hide, they couldn't hide behind the players that were performing each week and being consistent, and that was the most disappointing thing. I mean, you look at Rashford now; he's not a young kid anymore, not in footballing terms. He was right in the middle of his prime. And so he's obviously one that's been massively disappointing just because we know that if he's on his game and he was at his level, then we would have had a better season because Rashford would have had a better season and naturally that success would have come with it. And that was hugely disappointing. When the going got sort of tough with him, he sort of like, well, the same for a lot of these players, they just faltered. So obviously Rashford was a massive disappointment. Never really sort of got going. I think Pogba was another one. I don't think he's had a terrible time at United. I think he's had some success, and I think he's been good in snippets. But the amount of injuries he's had since he's been at United, the inconsistent performances again, that word inconsistency, up and down, spates of 8 to 10 games, then missing a month or two, and then coming back in for another 6 or 7 games and another injury, and it's just that was pretty disappointing and a bit of a letdown.
The whole saga as well. Is he staying? Is he going? Is he staying? Is he going?
Yeah, well, I think that's more just the media spin, isn't it, and the fans really. I mean, I don't think there was much from himself other than maybe his agent, and I know obviously his agent sort of passed on now, so it's kind of a bit of a sour subject. But the Pogba thing was it's just for the level that he was at, and I think we spoke about this the other day in the stream that we did the other night in the roundup of the week that he's quite happy to let other players take the reins and be that big voice and that big name. And Pogba should have more about him to want to elevate the club and elevate the team and put them at his level. And he's not willing to do that, clearly. And there was times this season where against Liverpool was the main one for me where was that really an injury? Did he just give up and walk off? And it was really disappointing. That was kind of one of the main sort of disappointing things for me this season. Just Pogba's kind of demeanour and attitude, and he showed full well that he's not a top player anymore, which was sad to see. I think Shaw's had a pretty tough season in and out. I think obviously having his surgery midway through the season as well, getting his pins out of his leg, I don't think must have been on the back of his mind. But he's off the back of the World Cup. We expected Shaw to do so well after that World Cup, and it just never really materialised, and that was really disappointing. Cavani's injuries up and down again after last season. After he did so well last season, I know Ronaldo's introduction probably didn't help his form, or his mental state. But we kind of expected more from Cavani when we needed him at most. When Ronaldo had injuries and when Ronaldo had the issues at home, Cavani should have been there to pick up the reins, and he wasn't, and that was disappointing. Martial, obviously a clear one after the seasons that he's had with Rashford, especially in 2019, where he should have been kicking on. This year again, like Rashford, both at sort of that same age where really now they should be hitting those kind of numbers, and he just wasn't. And the final one for me is just Varane. The jury's still out for me on Varane. I know he's won things. I know he's been at a big, massive club like Real Madrid, but from what I've seen of him this season, and you can sort of pinpoint other areas of the pitch, and that's kind of exposed him a little bit, which is probably not his fault 100%. But there's been points in the season where I've felt like his decision making and his overall game management's been pretty weak, and I think it's been questioned a couple of times. So the jury's still out on the Varane thing for me as well. So yeah, a handful of players.
You really did have a list as long as your arm there, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I measured it out. It was up to nearly the wrist, so it wasn't quite as much as the arm. But yeah,
right in size 30. Yeah, Gav, we'll just have one player from you. I know you probably want to name a few, but we need to wrap it up in a minute. So, Gav, who would you say your main disappointment is?
So I gave him special mention in the Player of the Year, but I'm going to throw him under the bus and put him in the Disappointment of the Year, purely based on his own standards, and that's Bruno. For all the stats that he's got, this has been a really, really poor season from him. The petulance, the tantrums, he's been out of the game. He's been very difficult to watch this season. So for me, I'd probably go with Bruno, purely because we were given such, like I say, the standards that he set for himself. To see what he's done this season, it's almost like he's been infected by the rest of the team. It's like there's a rot inside of Manchester United, and we buy in good players and we seem to turn them into mid players, and the mid players are put on pedestals like Mctominy and Fred and Maguire, and it's so for me, Bruno.
I'd agree with that, and to be honest with you, it's surprising and a bit shocking that I didn't even consider him or even think of him at all when I was thinking of Player of the Year candidates at all, which is, considering his numbers for the last couple of seasons, and like you say, his numbers this season, it still just doesn't feel like a proper Bruno season, and it doesn't feel like he's should be up for any.
They haven't been bad this season. I think it's just the thing is with Bruno that we forget is that he plays a lot, so he should be hitting those numbers really. So when he doesn't, it is very disappointing, isn't it?
I think to add to that as well, I feel like he's been made to play almost like 2-3 different positions this year, coming in from the right, then sometimes going onto the left, then he's been dropped into the number 6 role, then he's been played at false 9. And I think when you come with sort of higher standards in the last sort of 2 years, being the highest scoring midfielder in the Premier League as well, it's almost like you have this expectant on him. So it's just he still reached that 10-goal threshold, which is quite good for a midfielder if you actually think about it. I mean, his assists have been quite low, but he still finished the highest assist provider in the Champions League. So it's just it's been a bit inconsistent for him, if you like, in terms of performances. But I feel like he's had to play more than one role this season.
I think
well, a winger at one point, left winger, striker, like you say, yeah.
I think another thing with Bruno as well is that he does wear his heart on his sleeve, I feel like, and I feel like sometimes, you touched on the petulance, which I agree with, but I think sometimes because he wears his heart on his sleeve, I feel like there's been occasions where he's just gotten frustrated. Like he's obviously frustrated at the whole situation, at his form, at how we're playing. He's frustrated that we're losing and all that, and I can get that, but when there is that frustration, rather than showing a cool head and sort of calming things down, as really he should be doing, he seems to he just gets frustrated. There've been a few matches where, was it the Arsenal match? He was probably lucky not to get sent off because he just blew into somebody, and that was he was just out of control, and it was, and like I said, there was an element of he lost his. I think that's right. Bruno needs discipline.
Yeah.
I think he lost his discipline. Like I said, I think he was getting frustrated, and as a result, he lost his discipline. And there was a lot of throwing his arms up in the air. And I think one thing he did do is there was a lot of talk before this season about him being a potential captain. I don't think he's in that conversation anymore because
possibility. I mean,
you just can't have your captain can't be the one stropping about like a 5-year-old, stamping his feet and going, "This isn't," But at the end of the day, when the going gets tough, you need to stand up and be counted. If you want to be one of the leaders, you have to stand up and be counted. And he never has. He's just lost his discipline. He's lost his head. He's flown. Like I said, we could have, as much as we all joke about injuring people, but what he did against, the tackle against Arsenal was probably the primary example of just losing his head completely.
Yeah, I would agree. He's probably, like you say, stropped his way out of captain candidacy, but he's got pre-season and Ten Hag to impress, and maybe it shows a different side to himself now that everybody's put this season to bed. So hopefully, we'll get a better Bruno. Not that we've had a awful Bruno this season. I think we should stress that, but he's, like Gav says, compared to his recent levels, it has been a bit of a disappointment, but he is fully not alone on that because a lot of them have been disappointments. Right, we're gonna wrap it up, and but first we're gonna decide who's won. So we're gonna quickly go around and say who they thought has made the best argument. I think I know who we're all gonna pick, but we're gonna do it anyway because that's the show. So Sati, who do you think made the best argument for Player of the Season? And you are allowed to pick yourself.
I think I think obviously the ones that got the short straw in terms of like Sancho and Alanga, I think they made excellent valid points, and I do feel they will be in the mix next season. But I'd have to stick with my point with Cristiano. I think he's just been phenomenal for us this season.
Yeah, Alex, do you agree? Would you agree on that, or are you still going to stick with David De Gea? Are you standing firm?
No, I think in terms of I think Alanga has really come into in terms of breaking through, in terms of doing. I think he has been overplayed. I think there's been an element of just sort of, there's nobody else to play. Rangnick has seemed to sort of become a necessity quite quickly. But Alanga's, as much as he needs to see his role sort of reduced for his first season in the team, hats off to him. Sancho, we've seen those flashes of the quality and the class that he possesses, and the fact that we do have a genuine superstar in there. We do have this genuine sort of golden superstar who could be, he is only 21, 22, so he does have that sort of, he is a genuine superstar who in future can be that this season. Of course, it is his first season in the league. I know people go on about, he's English, but he's never played in the Premier League before. You're basically buying a player from you're basically buying a Bundesliga player because that's all he's really ever known in terms of professional football. So, he's going to take that time to adapt, and we have seen those flashes of just how good he can be. De Gea has been, he's been one of the best of a bat. He's not flawless, and he's not been faultless for some of our issues. I do feel like the defense take. I think pointing at De Gea and Gomez conceded 56 goals. I think that's unfair, because I think most of his it's a fact that he has done that, but it's also a fact that he's made more saves this season than he's ever made in the season before, which says a lot, because he's obviously had a lot of seasons under us. You think of the year, that year that we finished second under Mourinho, which I'd still argue that's one of the best goalkeeping seasons the Premier League's seen. But in terms of the saves that he's made in some seasons, the fact that this season he's made more than he's ever done before, but also conceded more than he's ever done before, basically showcases just how bad we have been. But Ronaldo, I mean, when he re-signed, it felt like anything was possible. I don't think anybody at that point, if somebody had turned around to you at that point and said that this season was going to go the way that it has, I don't think anybody would have believed it, because it felt like the world was our oyster. Maybe we all got a bit carried away. I think going forward, I think his role needs to be reduced. That's the reality. We can't rely on a 37-year-old. I also think he needs to accept a reduced role, to be honest, because throwing his toys out the pram when he got subbed off at 3-0 up against Brentford away from home. If he's doing that,
good look.
if he's doing that under Ten Hag, it's just not going to go well, especially if he ends up, possibly getting given a captain's armband. You can't have your captain, storming off the pitch because he's dared to be substituted in the 80th minute. So, he does need to really think about that side and maybe accept that he's not 23 anymore, even though we all wish he probably was. But I think Ronaldo, just for the goals he's scored and the fact that, he has scored, third top scorer in the league? Like, to do that,
third or fourth,
to do that at 37 in tough, what is probably the toughest league in the world, in probably in the worst United side in recent memory, is just a testament to the fact that the man is an absolute machine, and he is one of the greatest that the game's ever seen.
Yep. Reese, now you're allowed to tell us if you think it should be Ronaldo or De Gea, or if you're sticking with Sancho. Or Fred was actually one of your options as well, weren't he? But do you think Sati has the biggest and best argument for Ronaldo being Player of the Year?
I think so. I think just based on this season and what's happened, I think it's an extremely close one between Ronaldo and De Gea for me, because I've watched a few games this season at Old Trafford. One of the ones was the Villarreal game, and he produced some unreal saves. Like, when you watch it in real life and you watch him spring from one side of the goal to the other, one side of the post to the other in a flash, it's just ridiculous. Almost doesn't seem human at times. And when you see professionals almost putting their hands to their head and realizing how the hell he saved certain things, it must for professionals to be doing that must say a lot. Never mind people like us who are not in that realm with professional footballers, but he saved stuff, even not just this season, but this season in particular, where you just think he had no right to save that. That's a goal. That he had no right to get that ball, and he just did it. And he picks out things from the top corner, bottom corner, point blank. It's just ridiculous. Yeah, his distribution is not great, but I think in terms of what he's there to do, and I know Callum had sort of said, he's there to be a goalkeeper. Well, strikers are there to score goals, so it's you can't sort of criticize him for being an excellent goalkeeper and stuff. But for me, Ronaldo just edges it because some of the absolute moments in the death. I mean, the Atalanta goal where he hit the volley, half volley from the edge of the box, the hat trick against Spurs, even his first goal at Newcastle at Old Trafford in his first game his 2 goals were ridiculous. The moments we've had, the Villarreal last minute goal. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. And you just feel like he was almost trying to grab everybody by the hand and bring everybody with him to his level, and just no one was able to cope with that. And that was this kind of overall shame of it all, really. But I don't think you can begrudge Ronaldo or De Gea really of a Player of the Season award. It's a really close thing between them two, and I think for me, Ronaldo just edges it a little bit. So.
Cool. I think that's 3 votes for Ronaldo, so he's actually already won. But Gav, what would you go for? Would you back that up, or would you go for some of the other candidates, Fred or De Gea, maybe?
I'd love to shout for my boy Elanga. I think if we were going for a young player of the year, we'd probably put him at the top because of what he's done and been expected to do this season. But it's very hard to not go with the human highlight reel that is Ronaldo. I think when you've got these sort of awards, you don't tend to see keepers, defenders getting the plaudits of winning these awards, which is a shame because, like the panel have said, some of the saves that he's made has just been inhuman. And one thing that he's sort of brought to the other goalkeepers in the Premier League and world football is not just saves with his hands, it's the saves with his feet. You see that now with the likes of Mendy, with Ramsdale and other players in the Premier League, the way that they're not just diving or dropping down with their hands, they're using their feet to save. And although his distribution might not be the best, stopping goals, that's what he's there for. Now, if we had a system where, like next season, where we need a player like him to come off his line, then fair enough. But we haven't had that this season. We spent a lot of the season playing a deep line. So in the games that he was expected to come off his line, I don't think he got caught out much. I don't think there was anybody that, sort of got at him and he cost us a goal because he didn't come off his line. So I would like to give special mention to De Gea, but from the second that first goal went in at Old Trafford, written in the stars, last dance, coming home, it's still singing in my head, coming home, coming home. It's just the romance of it. So it has to be Ronaldo.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get too many disagreements. I think there's a few people in the comments have very much agreed with you, and a lot on Twitter as well. So I don't think we can look past Ronaldo. I think for his goals and the moments. Yes, he's had his criticisms, and there'll be people that don't want him around next season. But I think he has to be well worth the Player of the Season award. In what we've all said, he's been a very disappointing season and a bit of a short list. But,
I think them split it, like in terms of the real life awards, in terms of the player. Obviously, I know the ceremony's been cancelled, but obviously they're still handing out the awards. I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if Ronaldo picks up Fans Player of the Year, but De Gea picks up Players Player of the Year. I wouldn't be surprised to see them split it in that way. I think that would be a sort of obvious one, I think.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see what happens with that. But in the meantime, he is the All for United Player of the Season, much to pretty much no one's surprise. You've all done a brilliant job of arguing for the other players, though, especially like I said, Gavin, Sancho arguing for Sancho and Elanga. Obviously, it's not easy because there was pretty much about 2 or 3 players that we could really genuinely go for. So Cristiano Ronaldo wins the coveted award. Before we go, we just want to remind everybody we're aiming for 6,000 subscribers by the start of next season. So keep popping a like on your videos, keep retweeting, sharing with your friends, etc., and make sure you subscribe to the channel. That is very important. I believe Reese is back on Friday night with a show. I'm not sure if there's anything else in between then. But if there is, be sure to watch it. And we will see you next time, guys. Thank you for all my guests, and we'll see you again.